Good afternoon. We are right almost at 2 p.m. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this Microsoft 365 Teams workshop, Optimize Your Teamwork. Welcome to this session of the Chamber to Community Back to Business NWA Series. For those of you who are new or joining us for the very first time, I'm Karen Wagaman, Vice President for Downtown Development with the Rogers-Lowell Area Chamber of Commerce. This is a new virtual series, and it was created as a response to requests from our member businesses seeking tools and tactics to help them navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have a variety of workshops that are available to you, and this session is being recorded, and it will be added to our C2C playlist on our Chamber's YouTube channel, which is Rogers-Lowell Chamber. I will send everyone a link once we have it uploaded, so you may watch it again or share it with your teams. Now, I would like to thank our community builder sponsors who are making this free series possible: Cox Communications, Chambers Bank, and of course, Edafio Technology Partners. We want to thank all of them for making this program possible. And before I do welcome our presenter, Will Smothers, I would also like to thank Melissa Swan. Melissa is the marketing director for Edafio, and she coordinated all of the logistics for this presentation. So Melissa, thank you for that. Today's subject matter expert is Will Smothers. Will is Edafio's cloud team leader and a Microsoft 365 evangelist. Over the next 45 minutes or so, he will help us get acquainted with the features and benefits of Microsoft Teams and help you understand how you can optimize your team's remote communications. So Will, we want to thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your passion about this subject.
Well, thank you, Karen, for having us. We appreciate it. I am not going to kill you guys with PowerPoints today. My PowerPoint is actually really short. We're going to do more actual work on the Teams interface itself to show you guys how that works. If you joined the meeting and you weren't muted, please make sure you mute yourself, and we'll get started going from there. So my name is Will Smothers. I am the cloud team leader with Edafio Technology Partners. We're located in Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas, as well as Conway. So a number of locations around the state to help our customers however we can. While I am a Microsoft 365 evangelist, I am also just an evangelist in general of cloud and its benefits. So obviously, with the current state of affairs of in the world today, remote work has become to the forefront of a lot of discussions that are out there. It's been around for a long time. It's always been looked at as a necessary evil. There are sometimes places that people have to do it, but it was never really looked at as a prime time way to have your employees actually do their work. Well, with COVID-19 and the self-isolation and so on and so forth, that has really pushed the development of work from home and work remote to the vast forefront of the business world. And that has changed the landscape dramatically. Luckily, Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 in general has really helped with that. But there are some it's really been difficult for some people to transition. So I want to take about 5 or 10 minutes just to talk about some things that make working from home successful. And then we'll start looking at how Teams can help you and your teams stay connected, work collaboratively, and have those folks feel like they are still part of a working group in a company, and they're included and they're part of everything that's going on. So one of the first things you've got to do in working from home is you have to set up a workspace. One of the biggest mistakes I see people do is they'll sit out on their sofa in their living room with the dogs and the kids and their significant other running through the room all day long. They get distracted. They end up not being able to focus on tasks, things of that nature. So we always recommend treat working from home just like you do working from your office. Get up in the morning, get a routine, right? Get up, take a shower, get dressed, brush your teeth, so on and so forth. Then commute to wherever your workspace is. So in my case, I have a nice small little 10 by 8 office that's perfect for just me. I'm able to close the door. And when I'm in here, this is my office, right? No one comes in, no one bothers me. The next bullet on there is communicate, communicate, communicate. And I cannot stress that enough. Communication is key in this time. It's how we make people feel included. It's how we keep everyone connected, almost to the point of you needing to over communicate with your teams, right? Make sure that you check with everybody every day, check on them, just see how they're doing, making sure that they've got everything they need to do their job appropriately, that they're not feeling disconnected from anything that's going on. The reverse side of that coin is you also still want them to have some healthy boundaries. So when it is lunchtime, take your lunch. Don't work through your lunch. When 5 o'clock hits, if your work is caught up and you're done, log off for the day. Go spend some time with your family. As Franklin Covey would say, go sharpen the saw, right? So make sure you maintain those healthy boundaries, because what we're finding in studies today is that folks who work from home tend to become workaholics. And so you really want to make sure that those folks unplug and get off when they're done. The next big thing that you're going to have to work on is how to run meetings, right? So the first part is embracing online meetings. We're doing it right now. I'm sure you guys have been doing it with a number of other solutions that are on the market, whether that be WebEx or GoToMeeting or Zoom or any one of the others that are out there. But meetings are now going to become online meetings, pardon me, are now going to become part of your everyday routine. So learn how to use them, right? Understand what that mute button is. Understand how to present a screen, those type of things. So, that one's really big. Be mindful and inclusive. What I mean by this is, again, it goes back to that communication portion that we were talking about. Make sure everybody who is a stakeholder who needs to be part of a meeting is in the meeting. Don't accidentally leave somebody out. We've all seen it time and time again when we're in our facilities. We leave somebody off a meeting, we walk down the hall, we see them and go, oh, I need to add that person. Well, you don't have that option when you're working from home. So try to really think through who needs to be invited to meetings and make sure you get them invited. And then do just like we're doing today, record your meetings. And it's more for being able to go back and review and make sure that everything was covered and that you got everything, not to go, well, you said you were going to do this. That's not the point of the recordings. The point of the recordings is to make sure that everybody is on the same page, knows what's going on, and can go back and reference it at any point in time, because maybe they remembered part of the conversation, but not everything. Then the last big thing I would say around this is stay connected, okay? And again, it goes back to that communication portion. Every day, in your offices, people walk past each other, they stop and they talk, and we used to call that water cooler talk or hallway talk, right? Make sure you make time to do that with your teammates, to just stop and pop onto a video call or an instant message chat and just check on them, see how they're doing. And then we've started doing a thing at Edafio on Wednesday afternoons about 4 or 4:30. We bring our team together and have a virtual happy hour, if you will, from whether it's your deck or your patio or your living room or your kitchen, wherever. But we pull our team together and have a kind of a sense of team unity. Everybody knows they're there. And then finally, have fun with it. Yes, it's a business tool, but everybody knows from texting and from all the use of current technology. Add gifts. That we have that ability in Teams. I'll show you guys how to use that in a minute. Use stickers. Make it fun. Don't just be, boring text messages. These folks want to have some fun, so we're going to do that. All right. So with that, I'm going to stop presenting the PowerPoint. We'll come back to it in a minute, and I am going to instead bring up my Teams interface, and we're going to walk through the Teams interface in general. Hopefully everyone can see that. So we're going to start with where you would start normally in Teams. When you start up Teams, Teams is just a standalone application from Microsoft. It integrates with the Office 365 suite of applications. So Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, all those folks, it integrates with all of that. And so Microsoft's view of Teams is that sooner or later, probably within the next 18 to 24 months, when you come in and you sit down in the morning and start your computer, right now you start Outlook. 90% of people, the first thing they open is their email. Well, in the next 18 to 24 months, the first thing you're going to open is Teams. Teams is going to have both your instant messaging, it's going to have your meetings, it's going to have your calendar, it's going to have your email. It does not have email today, but in the future it will. So you'll come in and you will live and breathe and work out of Teams, which is Microsoft's envisionment. So there are mainly three sections of screen on a Microsoft Teams. The first being the very far left, and these are your applications or your launch bar. It has some preset determined ones that you can change, your activity feed, your chat, your teams, and I know some of you want to really kind of understand what's a team and what's a channel, and we'll cover that here, your calendar, and then Teams can also be used as a voice over IP phone system. So you can also get calls from PC to PC, or there are also desk phone options, or you can add the application to a smartphone and have it on here and get your phone calls on your smartphone. And we'll take a look at that as well. And then the last section is files, and this just integrates into the Windows Explorer and OneDrive and SharePoint and things of that nature. We'll talk about that as well. The next section over to the I don't want to call it center, but it would be the center pane, is kind of your actions, right? What is happening here? So in the case of us being under the activity, we can see our activity feed, and these are all the things. If we click on it, it will take us to the actual conversation where that happened, and that way you can correlate the activity that happened with what the conversation was so that you can get caught back up. You can also change your feed to simply show your activity. What did you do? And you can also filter it by simply typing keywords like KPI, right? So it didn't find any matches for me in this one. That's okay. The next application down is chat. And in the action pane of chat, you have all of the list of chats that you've had. Think of a chat as a text message, but on your computer, right? So you can do a one-on-one chat, or as you see in some of these, you can do a one-to-many. So in this case, this is a chat that I'm having with my team. It has all of the members of the team in it. So when somebody types something, everyone on the team sees this in their chat. Whereas with this one with Melissa, this was a one-on-one chat. I was talking just to Melissa and she was just talking to me. So this is the list of all the chats that you have going on, and it is historical, and it will go back indefinitely. As you can see, I'm still scrolling. I'm back at 5:15, and I can still go back further than that. At the top of the chats, you have both recent, which is the ones you've been dealing with, but then you can also create your own custom lists. So in this case, I have the people who I talk with fairly regularly listed as my favorites, and they're listed in here. But then I also have some people that I communicate with outside of my business who are also Microsoft Teams enabled companies. And so I have them in my favorites here as well. I have some folks from Dyke Industries and Microsoft and a little construction company some of you might know named Nabholz, and then some one of our peer MSPs in the north central region of the United States. So I have some folks listed in my contacts, and that's just so I can quickly chat with them. We're going to get to the very top in a little while, called the search and type command area, this text box. So I don't want to steal any thunder from it, but it is directly related to chats. All right, so let's get to the kind of the meat of Teams and what is Teams. So Teams, as the name implies, is a logical grouping of people with a common goal. Okay, so in this case that you're seeing here, you can see all of these different teams that are listed inside of Edafio. There's a Edafio Cloud team, which is specifically for my team. There is a Microsoft 365 feature updates team, which this team is specifically uh, posts information about updates to Microsoft 365. We have our delivery team leadership team. We have an on-call team, blogs and articles team, so on and so forth. So these are a group of people. So if we were to go and look at the managed team and we see the people who are in here, you can see all the folks who have access to this team. And again, the discussions we have in this team are specifically around things around cloud. So by default, you have a general chat or a general channel, pardon me. And that channel is, in the general sense, is for any discussion you want to have around this team. So if you come to this general and you look under the post, you're going to see all kinds of discussions we've had currently and in the past, and so on and so forth. This is what's known as a persistent chat. It never goes away. So if we add a new team member, they can come to this location and they can scroll back as far as they want to scroll and get caught up on what our team has worked on. Each channel also has the ability to store files. So you can store files that are specific to this team in this location. And everyone who has access to that team and to that channel have access to these files. And then you can add additional components to your channel. You can add Excel, you can add Microsoft Forms, you could add a wiki page, you could add a OneNote notebook, which we have done, and I'll show that to you guys. So we do have our OneNote notebook for our cloud team, and it specifically is notes about how to do things for the cloud team. Okay, so you can add this in there, and it's very similar to full-blown notes. It has notebooks, it has sections. So if you've ever used OneNote, this is a very similar interface for it. You can also create what's known as a private channel. And a private channel is one that is used for within your team. So in my case, the Edafio Cloud team, but I only want very specific people to see it. So if I go and I look at manage the channel, I can actually see that there's only 2 people who have access to this LAAS, or Learning as a Service channel, because it is a private channel. And again, that little lock there is the visual key that this is a private channel. Okay. So this is really good. So good example in the cloud team, Dylan and I are working on Learning as a Service, but it's just he and I. And so before we give it out to everyone else, we use this area here to store our files that we're working on, specifically around this, to have discussions around Learning as a Service. So it's almost like a subset of the working group for this team. Okay. And every single one of these can have that. So within a team, you can also start a full-blown meeting specifically for the team. This little button down here that says Meet Now, if I were to hit that, it would pause all of you and it would start a new meeting and invite everybody on the team to that meeting, and they could join it just for one simple click of the button. I think we've probably covered a lot on Teams. We'll come back during a Q&A, and if you guys have questions about that, we'll follow that. The next item down on your applications section here is your calendar. Someone asked in the survey, how do I schedule meetings? Well, there's 2 ways to do it, and the most efficient way is through this, is using the calendar inside of Teams. And from here, this is integrated if you're looking at using Exchange Online with Microsoft 365, or you have an on-premise Exchange server, you can schedule meetings and it will reflect both in your Outlook calendar, which I'll show you here in a moment, as well as your Teams interface. And creating a new meeting is as simple as clicking the button right here on the top right that says New Meeting. When you do that, it's very similar to the Outlook meetings. You can add a title, you can type in your required attendees, or you can hit the plus button over here and also add optional attendees, just like you would in Outlook. You can select your date, your time that it starts, when it runs through, does it repeat or not. Again, we talked about you can invite an entire channel. You can type an entire channel here. You can say this is going to happen in this channel. And so everybody that gets invited, if they're not part of that channel, obviously they cannot participate. So use the channel sparingly, especially in the beginning. I don't know that I would recommend you use this until you get a little deeper into using channels inside of Teams. But you can also add a location. And so you can actually type in it's in conference room A or conference room B, or maybe it's down the street at a prospective customer's office or something of that nature. So you can type that in here, and then you can type in your details. And this is a full feature Word editor or document editor. So you have all your standard stuff. You know, you can highlight text, you can strike through it, you can change the font size, you can indent, you can make tables, you can, everything you can do in Outlook, you can do in here. And then when you're done, you simply hit save. When you save it, it will send an email to everyone you've invited, and it's a calendar invite, and they accept it, and then they'll show up. It also has a scheduling assistant, just like you have in Outlook. So you, just like Outlook, if you want to see other people's calendars, you can. Okay. The other one that I would point out here is everyone knows if you're dealing with people on the East or the West Coast, they all feel like the time revolves around them. So they'll tell you, oh, we're going to have a 9 a.m. meeting. Well, that's 9 a.m. East Coast. So this will automatically convert it for you, but you can also select the time zone that you want to see the meeting listed as. So that's all there is to the meetings. And then when it's time to join the meeting, you can either open it by double clicking on it and clicking the join button at the top, or you can simply join that join by clicking that join button right there. I do want to show you, once a meeting is open, some additional things that magically become available. Once you've scheduled that meeting, you'll notice that you now have a chat. And if you look, the chat that you're seeing here on my screen mimics the chat that we currently have going on inside of this meeting. Okay, this chat will be persistent. It will stay here. So even when the meeting is over, you can come back here and look at the chat that was going on in the back end if you need to. You can upload files. So here in a little while, I'm actually going to upload a file to here. You guys will be able to get it and pull it down. Well, this is where it's located, is in the files. You can see the details of the meeting, which is basically the same pieces you saw when you created it. You still have your scheduling assistant. And then you have meeting notes. Now, meeting notes utilizes OneNote. And so from within this meeting, I could actually start a OneNote notebook to do nothing but take meeting notes. So just like if most of you, if you still do meetings like you used to do meetings, you have somebody who's leading the meeting, and then you have somebody who's recording it, almost acting like a secretary, right? Who's recording the meeting notes, the to-dos, who's doing what, so on and so forth. You can turn on the OneNote and take all your meeting notes electronically, so you don't have to worry about sending it out separately. It's stored in this meeting, and anybody can go look at it at any point in time. The other piece, which I'm going to show separately here in a minute, so I'm not really going to do a lot of explaining with this one, is the whiteboard feature. We'll look at how that works, but I'll just preface this with tell you this is probably my absolutely favorite feature in Teams meetings, and we'll see it here in a minute. Okay, so that's calendaring. There is another option which I'm going to briefly touch on, but we're not really going to talk a whole lot about, and that's called a live event. And a live event, think of it as something like, almost like putting on a shareholder meeting. You have some folks who are at the front who are presenting, and other folks who are listening and receiving, right? So you have a presenter and you have an audience, and it's not very interactive, right? A learning situation could be another good example of this. So there's that capability inside of Teams, and it's called a live event, and it can have up to 50,000 participants at any one time. I don't think any of you guys will have that many, but it can have up to that many. Additionally, in Microsoft Teams meeting, they've upped the number, and I believe the Teams meetings now can have up to 5,000 individuals inside of the meetings. So Teams is a very capable conferencing solution, very nice and large. Inside of the calendar, you can also change your view to a day view, a work week view, or a week view. You can move your dates where you want to see, and you can also, if you have moved forward in the future, you can hit the today button and it brings you right back to today, just like it would in Outlook. Okay. And then let's see, we may have a chat going here. Let's see what we've got. Might have missed meeting invitations from Teams will show up people's Outlooks. Yes, so I'll show you real quickly. That's a great question, Luke. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, check your chat. Luke asked if meetings sent from Teams will show up in someone's Outlook, whether they use Teams or not. The answer is yes. It will show up in their Outlook. And what they will see once they accept it, I'm going to show you guys my Outlook here in just one second. I'm actually going to show you this. What they get is a meeting, and I'm going to minimize this back here so it's easier to see. They'll just get, it looks like a normal meeting notice, okay? The big difference is where it says join Microsoft Teams. If they click on this, which I'm going to do because I want to show you guys, what will happen is they will be taken to a website. I already have Teams enabled, so it's asking me if I just want to open my Teams client. I can say yes. If they are not a Teams company, okay, they can either download the Windows app and participate, or they can join the meeting from a web browser. They don't have to have Teams, and there's nothing to download. They simply click on that button and they join the meeting in their web browser. Full video, full audio. The only thing that the person joining with a web browser cannot do is share their screen. So Luke, to your point, this is probably someone who is coming to watch something you're doing, so they're not going to need to present anyway. So this would be a very good solution for them, okay? So really good question. Please, guys, feel free to ask them at any time. I'll try to address them as quickly as I see them. And you'll have to pardon me. I have 4 monitor screens, so sometimes it looks like I'm not looking at the camera, but I promise I really am. So good question, Luke. Good question. And the way I knew that happened, guys, is you heard the ding, and I saw the little red dot on our chat, so I knew we had one. Okay. So calls. I don't think any of you guys will use Teams for your phone system, but you can. The company that I came from, we did use Teams for our entire phone system. The beautiful thing about it is it integrates with Teams and Outlook and so on and so Exchange. So you actually can see all of your, if you have contacts in Outlook, you can see them here. You can see the history of your phone calls. You can get your voicemails here. You can set up your own speed dial stuff in here. So if I have people I want to call all the time, I can set them up in here. And I can add a speed dial, or I can create groups to where it's a speed dial group, and I click it and it calls everybody in that speed dial group. So this is really neat. I don't know that a lot of you guys will use this. I will give you guys a warning. If you start doing one-on-one audio calls in Teams, so PC to PC, which will happen, if somebody tries to call you and you ignore it or you're not there, it will send them to a voicemail. Well, the voicemail is in Teams. Please just hang up. Otherwise, you're going to get people who have voicemail on their phone and voicemail in Teams, and they're going to get confused. So if you're not using Teams as your voice solution for your desktop phones, don't leave a voicemail in Teams, because people will never listen to it. They won't know they have it, and they'll freak out when you say, I left you a voicemail. Okay. So try not to use the voicemail in there unless you're a Teams enabled shop. And if you want to talk about that, the pros and cons of that, I'll be happy to have a discussion with anybody who'd like to have it. I'm not going to have it in this meeting because it's a fairly in-depth discussion. But there are pros to using it and there are cons to using it. So I'll be happy to have a discussion with that. And then files. So files is what I talked about. This really integrates into the files that are stored within Teams, whether that is in a chat, which you can put files in a chat, or in a meeting, or in a Teams channel. You can see all of the files that you have access to right there. And so it will pull them up. We'll take a second here because I have a lot of files because I share them so much. But it will list all the files that I have currently in Teams, and I can access them. And it will tell me who shared it with me and where it's currently located. Okay. I can also see, if you guys utilize another component of 365 called OneDrive, I can also see my files in OneDrive. And so what I see here is exactly a duplicate of what I have in my file explorer. So let me kind of make this to where you guys can see that. So if I go into my documents here, where is it? Documents. You can see that I see the exact same things, and I need to sort it by name so it's a little easier to see. There we go. So now you can see I have the exact same things in here that I have over here. So it's just a nice another way to get to your files that are stored in OneDrive. So it looks like we may have another question, Josh. Can you make calls to regular phone numbers with Teams? Josh, the answer is yes, but. And the but is you have to either have a calling plan from Microsoft, or you have to bring in your own telephone lines into your building and have a special device that will integrate those calls coming in to Teams in the cloud. And those do have, there are capabilities to do that. Let's have a little deeper discussion about that after this. You and I can hook up separately, and I can talk to you a little bit about that. Luz, can you join a meeting if your desktop doesn't have a camera? Or yes, you absolutely can. If you have just speakers and you're just joining as a participant, and you're just there to hear what somebody else has to say and see what they're sharing, Luz, you 100% don't have to have a camera. You do not have to have a microphone. You're just going to be receiving, right? There is an exception to that. Let me pull back up my meeting invite here real quickly. Again, I'm going to minimize that. You'll notice that I have the ability to have people be able to dial in. So they can, if they have no speaker and no microphone, I'm sorry, no microphone and no camera, they can still click on the link and join the meeting and see the content and hear it. But then they could also dial in so they could have a voice component. Now, the voice component is not turned on by default. That is a paid add-on, but it is very inexpensive to add dial-in numbers. Much less expensive than either GoToMeeting or Zoom or WebEx. So much to the tune of that we were on another provider and we only had 40 people who were on it. We moved our entire company to the Teams calling portion, and we're only paying about a third of what we were paying to cover everybody. So very, very big cost savings there, because Microsoft has realized you've already made a big investment in 365. So they're going to help you leverage it as best you can. And then Karen asks, are the files virtual like Google Docs Sheets where multiple people can access at the same time? Okay, so they are not virtual. You're welcome, Luz. They're not virtual. They are real physical files, and they are synchronized. And yes, you can have multiple people working on the same file at the same time, just not the exact same section. And let me give an example of that. If I were in a Microsoft Word document and I was working with you, Karen, on a Microsoft Word document, I could be working on the first paragraph and you could be working on the 6th paragraph, no problem. But if you and I were both trying to work on the first sentence of the first paragraph, it would not allow us to do that, because I may make a change that overwrites the change that you make that overwrites the change that I made, right? So that gets really hairy really quick. But it will allow you to both edit at different portions of the file at the same time. So, and that's really a feature of OneDrive and of SharePoint. Additionally, both of those components do what's called revisioning. And so every change that's made is a revision. And so if you and I are working on a document together and I accidentally overwrite something you did, we can move back one revision or two revisions or however many to get that back and get it back to where it was. So you can go back with those. Okay, so I kind of preface that I'm going to show you guys what this is for up here. This little bar up here, well, let's talk about two of the pieces. The first one we're going to talk about is this one, this icon. It's called the new chat icon. You click on it, it starts a new chat. You start typing somebody's name. In this case, I'm going to do Melissa's. And you can see that as I start typing their name, it automatically fills it out based on your directory. And then you can just select them from here and you go right into your chat with them. Melissa and I have chatted before, so there it shows my chat history with her. So pretty straightforward when you use the chat. What the search command is for is kind of neat. You can search for any word that you've ever put in that might be. So like good example on that one I used earlier of KPI, I know I've talked to somebody inside of Edafio about building some KPIs for the cloud. So I can type in KPI and hit search, and it's going to come up with every single conversation where I listed KPI or someone else said KPI to me. So, you know, you can click on it and go and start reading back through that, and it highlights the one that said KPI, which is this one right here. You literally can search for any word or any text that you might have done. Additionally, you're going to notice when you click in there, there's some interesting things that have @ symbols in front of them. Well, if any of you use social media such as Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter or any of those, very similar. You can simply type an @ symbol and someone's name, and it will send a message to them. Or there's some other ones like the forms, the praise, the stream, the so on and so forth, the weather. So let's just show you this one because weather is kind of cool. You can type @weather, and if you have the weather one added in, it will actually show you the weather for your area. Okay, so there's some really neat things you can do inside of that. Let me get over to our actual meeting here real quickly, because the next thing I want to show you guys is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and instead I'm going to share a whiteboard. Now I have a touch-enabled PC, so I'm going to be ending up using my my Surface Pencil to do this, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to look around the meeting interface here in a moment, and I'm going to show you what the whiteboard is. I'm going to share a whiteboard with everyone. So here in a minute, you all should see a whiteboard, and I'm going to use the one that's inside of Teams instead of pulling up the and just so you guys know, the whiteboard is not recorded. So sorry, Melissa, this piece will not be recorded. But in here, multiple people, and I would encourage some folks to just grab a pen, and you can start drawing on here, right? So everybody should see that I've written hi. Someone else can grab another one and grab another color and start writing on there. And so you can collaborate when you're working on, especially when you're wanting to collaborate on a project, something of that nature. This is fantastic. The whiteboard is infinite in all directions, so you can make it as big as you want it to be. It is stored inside of the Microsoft Teams meeting. Additionally, you can, if you have the Microsoft Whiteboard app, which I'm going to actually open, and I am going to share my screen to show you guys the whiteboard, the actual whiteboard, not the one that's in Teams. So let me come over here to Teams and share this out. So I'm going to share my whiteboard. You'll see that this is the exact same whiteboard we were playing with earlier. It has my hi. I'm going to use my favorite color, which is a unicorn rainbow, and You can see why it's my favorite color. It just comes in all different ones. But you can do some really neat things, like you could add an image from Bing. And you could, come on, enable. There we go. I didn't have it enabled. I apologize. So I could then add a Bing image, and I can say landscape. Bam. Find landscape. And it's going to go out and find me images of landscapes. I can select that one, and now it's in there. And I can select it. If I can find my selection key. There it is. Nope, I'm still inking. And I can blow that thing up. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. I can magic wand it. I can, I can do all kinds of neat things with the whiteboard. So the whiteboard is really, in all honesty, my absolute favorite tool inside of the Microsoft Teams meeting space. There's a ton you can do with it. Let's go back, and I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to put the Teams interface back up there, and we will go through a meeting interface so you guys can know. And we've only got about 5 minutes, so I'll try to move as quickly as I can because I want to leave you guys enough time to ask questions. One of the big changes that Microsoft has made to the Teams interface is we can now see 3x3 videos. So we can see up to 9 streams of video. Previously, it was only 4. Within the next 60 days, you're going to be able to see up to 49 streams of video. So a 7x7 grid of video. So you'll be able to see a lot more people. It'll be more Zoom-esque, if you will, because that's what everybody tries to liken it to, is Zoom. So it'll be a lot more like Zoom. You can have bigger meetings with more people, so on and so forth. The most important piece in Microsoft Teams is this control bar here in the center. Within the next 90 days, Microsoft is going to move this control bar from where it sits today to the top right-hand side over here, just to make it easier to get to, make it permanent. It doesn't float in the way. You'll notice it's kind of floating over Jackie's image here, so they're going to try to fix that. But we're going to work real quickly from left to right on the command bar. The first thing you see is that this is being recorded, and it's showing you how long it has been being recorded. The next one is turning your camera on or off. When you click this, like right now, my camera is on. If I click it, my camera goes off, and I know it's off because it's got the line through it, okay? So working from home, this is really essential because if you have kids running around in the background, you can, and one of them just got out of the shower and is half naked and running through the house, you can real quickly turn off your camera so that nobody accidentally sees your half-naked child running through the room. The next one is your microphone, which is obviously your audio. Again, just like your camera, you click it, it's on, you click it, it's off. There's only 2 ways to do that. The next button is your share button. I can't really show you guys the full sharing interface because if I hit stop sharing, you guys can't see it, and then so on and so forth. But from here, you can either share full monitors, you can share just applications, you can share the whiteboard, or you can share a PowerPoint presentation. And PowerPoint presentations are handled a little differently inside of Teams if you want them to be. Basically, you upload the PowerPoint into Teams, and then you navigate through it with the inside of Teams. It's a nice feature. It allows people to move forward and back. It's not my favorite feature. I prefer to actually run PowerPoint separate and share the screen that PowerPoint's on. I feel like I have more control, but to each his own. So Microsoft had a lot of requests to have that feature. They added it in. The next one is the more actions. And this is kind of the place to go when you don't know where to go for anything else, right? This shows you everything that doesn't fit into one of these other categories. So you can see your device settings. So what camera are you using? What microphone are you using? What speakers are you using? Okay, you go there to see that. You go to the show meeting details to see details about this meeting. You can see the dial-in number. You can I can actually, because I have calling feature, I could call out to someone to pull them into this meeting. And then I could copy this join info that's down here, put it into an email and send it to somebody if I wanted. I can also just invite someone directly. Instead of putting in a phone number, I could start typing someone's name. Like I could type, maybe lying to you. Yeah, I'm lying to you. That's, I have to do it in the person invite, pardon me. I'll show that to you in a sec. You can enter full screen mode. This is really useful for presentations. You noticed all the little stuff went away from my Teams. So now I've just got a nice big Teams screen. This is really good for inside of conference rooms and things of that nature, where you guys might be using this on a big screen television and you want to see everybody, so you can go to full screen mode. To get out of full screen mode, you just hit the escape key. I think that's right. Maybe it's the F11. Let me see. Or you can just go to exit full screen mode. Either way, whichever way works best. You also have background effects. So this is new in Teams. New within the, when I say new, it was introduced in May. You can see I have a background behind me. That's not like a real piece of something behind me. That's a digital image that's put behind me. And so you can choose background effects. Now I'm going to show you guys some of my background effects. You have the ability to upload your own. So I have uploaded some of my own. Imagine this, in computers, I am a Star Wars geek. So I have a whole bunch of Star Wars backgrounds. I also am a big old kid at heart. I grew up on Legos, and so Legos also hold a special place in my heart, especially the space Legos. So if any of you have young kids and have seen the Lego movie, there's Benny, who yells spaceships constantly, and that's, that was me when I was younger. So my parents loved me for it, let me just tell you. So I'll get back to there. So you can set your own background and do what you want with it. You can turn on live captions. Now, I will tell you, if you have a very thick Southern accent, not so good. But if you have a pretty mild accent, it actually does a really, really good job of being able to change it. So I'm going to turn on just to show you guys. I believe you will be able to see it once I have it turned on. There we go. And you'll notice it even catches my ums and uhs. So the downside is, if you have multiple people who are talking, it doesn't do the captioning in different colors for each person because it's not smart enough to do that. So it just runs all of the closed caption together. So you have to be paying attention to who's talking to know who said what. Okay, so that's the closed captioning. So I'm going to turn that off. And then keypad, you guys probably aren't going to use that. Again, that's if you use Teams as a full-blown phone system. You also have a keypad. You can start and stop your recordings from here. You can end a meeting from here. Okay, so when we all get all done and we sign off for the rest of the day, I will come here and hit the end meeting and it will shut everything down. Okay, it will take it and package it all up for us inside of Teams. And then as a presenter, or as the presenter, I can turn off everybody's incoming video. So if we're seeing that video is really choppy and everybody looks like a robot, it's because we have too much video stream coming in and we're eating all the bandwidth at somebody's location. And I can literally just turn off the video and that takes care of that problem. Okay, so if video is not required, you can turn it off here. All right, so that's the more actions button. You then have your raise your hand. So if you need some assistance with something, you can click on the raise your hand. And in the chat window, it'll show that you have a hand up and the moderator or the presenter can answer your question. The next one over is the show conversation. And we have another question here. Do you have to have a green screen to show a background? No, you do not. I hate to show you my office, so don't judge. That's all I'm saying right now. I can turn off my background effect and apply. You can see that's my office. Okay, so again, don't judge. Let me reset it. There we go. So now I'm back. So no, you don't have to have a green screen. It uses AI to figure out who you are, and you'll notice sometimes like my hands will disappear at weird times. So it does pretty good, but it's not great. So just know that. All right, so apply and then close that. Okay, so back to the chat. So in the chat, no problem. This is where you can see all the chat that's going on. How secure is Teams? Okay, I'll get to that. That's a great question here, Melissa. I'll answer that here in 30 seconds. So that's your chat window. This is where you come to do your chats. Again, full feature formatting. You can attach files. You can put emojis in here. You can also put GIFs in here. Again, keep it fun, right? So you can put GIFs in it, and then you can do some other, depending on what other pieces you have turned on and don't have on. Like you could do a poly poll or whatever the case may be. And then here's the participants view. So as a presenter, I see a little bit different view than you guys do, but I can see everyone who's in here. I can mute them. I can unmute them. I can mute everybody all at once. I can take someone and make them a presenter as opposed to just an attendee. I will tell you, if you mute someone, you cannot unmute them. And that is a privacy reason. Because if I mute you and something's going on, the dog's barking or you're yelling at someone or something's happening, and I unmute you, we may hear things that we don't need to hear. So the presenter can mute someone, but they cannot unmute someone. Okay? That makes sense? Hopefully so. And then the red button is the hang up, which we're not going to do. We're not going to hang up on everybody. Okay, so Melissa asked, how secure is Teams? So you guys have all heard of all of the debacles that are going on with Zoom and its security and people being able to lurk in meetings without other folks knowing. And now Zoom has, not 2 weeks ago, has released that their free version, they are not going to encrypt so that anybody can eavesdrop on it that wants to eavesdrop on it. Microsoft Teams is built with the same principle that everything that 365 is built with, which is usability and security. Okay, this is an enterprise class tool. Therefore, everything that's done is done securely. It's done encrypted. And I set up this meeting to where no one had to wait in a lobby. That's an unusual thing for me. Most of my meetings, I have a lobby and I force everybody into the lobby, including people in my own organization. So I know exactly who is participating in my meeting. Additionally, you can see right down here at the bottom, everyone who's participating, as well as in the participant list. Nobody can lurk. You can 100% know exactly who's in here. And again, everything is encrypted. So it's not like somebody could be sitting there doing what we call sniffing the wire and pulling the packets from this meeting and putting it back together. So if you're having an internal meeting with HR, it is a secure meeting with just the people inside of that meeting. No one else can see it, hear it, or get it. If they get it, they can't put it back together because they don't have the encryption key to decrypt it. So Teams is a super secure environment. Okay, with that, we've got 8 minutes left, so I ran a little over what I wanted, which is okay. But if you guys have questions, feel free to either unmute yourself and ask or type it into the chat, and I'll try to answer anything that I didn't cover. All right, Karen looks like she may have dropped off, which is okay.
Hey, Will, I had a question. When you did the whiteboard, before you presented, it said like organization is using whiteboard. Like I couldn't see what you were doing. Is that a feature that like our company doesn't have then?
So if your company is already using Microsoft Teams, inside of the Teams Admin Center, your Teams administrator will need to go in and turn on the ability to use the whiteboard. It should not, I mean, it's one click on there, but there are some companies that don't want that application being used. Mainly that's in secure areas because, as you saw, you could copy and paste and do some really interesting things with it. And so because it's a whiteboard, it also doesn't fall under the information protection pieces. So the pieces that look for privacy information, you could drop a file that had a personal identifiable information on there, PII. The protection scanners couldn't pick that up. And so you could, in theory, accidentally share something you're not supposed to. So some companies don't like the whiteboard being on. I will tell you, I've never seen that happen. Doesn't mean it won't, but I haven't seen it happen, and I really, really like the whiteboard feature. It really helps foster the collaboration within teams. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Hey, Will, I'm still here. That was a different Karen that dropped out.
Okay, great, Karen. Glad you're still on.
All right. Are there any other questions? And I'm sure Will would entertain phone calls or emails once this is over. So
Yes,
we will be sure to include your contact information when we send out the email with the link to the YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I do want to, oh, go ahead.
Real quick, Karen, two things that I'll share with you guys real quickly. I've got 2 slides and we're out. Like I said, I'm going to be light on PowerPoint. 2 things that I would recommend you guys do. If your company doesn't currently use Teams, Microsoft is making Teams free for the next 6 months. Go sign up for it. Here's the link to it. It's free, and it's well worth it. There are some things that they leave out of it, which is okay, but the vast majority of the functionality you would need is there. The second thing I would recommend doing is going and downloading the Teams cheat sheet, and no, that's really what it's called. It's from Microsoft. It's called the cheat sheet. And the cheat sheet will actually, I'll show it to you just real quickly. It looks just like, if I can grab my screen, there we go, just like this. And it just basically walks people through what everything is inside of Teams and how to use it. Okay, so go get that. And then the last thing that I would tell you guys is, here's my email address. Karen's absolutely right. If you've got questions, comments, you want to talk more about it, shoot me an email. I'll carve out some time. We'll have some discussion. I don't mind doing that. I will be honest and tell you that, ultimately, I hope you find some value in this, and I hope you see that myself and my team can help you guys navigate the 365 waters and how to use the full suite of 365. And we'd love to engage you as a customer, not just as a friendly, hey, here's how you do it, but as a customer to help you get where you want to go on your roadmap using the tools you own. Okay, Karen, done. All over to you.
Okay, great. Well, I do want to thank you so much. We will send you the link to that free download and cheat sheet when we send out the YouTube link, and as well as Will's email address. And I do want to thank Will Smothers and Melissa Swan for providing this overview of using Microsoft Teams. This does look like a really great tool for companies to manage their projects and their communications, especially when we're all working remotely. So we do appreciate that. And I'd like to thank all of our participants for joining us for this webinar. Again, it is going to be recorded, or it has been recorded, and this version will be uploaded to the Rogers-Lowell Chamber YouTube channel in a day or so. And we will send the link to everyone who registered. So we invite you to watch it again or share it with your teams. And feel free to reach out to Will Summers and his team, or Will Smothers and his team at Edafio if you have any IT consulting questions or concerns. So thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks a lot.